Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1.
The thinking atheist. It's not a person. It's a symbol. An idea.
The population of atheists in this country is going through the roof.
Rejecting faith. Pursuing knowledge. Challenging the sacred.
If I tell the truth, it's because I tell the truth. Not because I put my hand on a book and made a wish.
And working together for a more rational world.
Take the risk of thinking for yourself. Much more happiness, truth, beauty, and wisdom will come to you that way.
Assume nothing. Question everything. And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Podcast. Hosted by Seth Andrews.
Next week, we're doing kind of a workshop. I say it's a workshop on street epistemology, how to change people's minds. I'll be interviewing 4 specific street epistemologists who have been out sort of on the streets, engaging people in their own lives and circles and communities about why we believe what we believe. And I think we can learn a lot from what they have learned. That's coming up next week. For today's broadcast, just FYI, it originated as a video conversation. Also, you will hear interjected within the interview segments random pieces from the work, the YouTube work that my special guests are doing. So if you'd like to watch the version with visuals, the YouTube link is in the description box of this show. There's a group of, I say up-and-comers, I sound like my freaking grandfather, but there's a group of sort of a new breed of YouTube atheists, and you may not be aware of who they are, what their work focuses on. You may want to subscribe to their channels. Today's conversation is going to be actually a series of conversations, 2 in a row, featuring a total of 6 YouTube atheists or YouTube activists who speak to non-belief in deities, but also beyond religious issues, to sort of the human condition. And we're going to start with segment 1, which will feature genetically modified skeptic, 132,000 subscribers already on YouTube, Thomas Westbrook, who is probably better known, or at least as well known as Holy Koolaid, and Telltale, who is identified as an anti-extremist YouTuber. Did I get that right? Anti-extremist in like any type of extremism or what?
Yeah, you could say anti-extremism. I've been reading a lot of Stephen Hassan, or Stephen Hassan, I think is how it's pronounced, recently. And, I've been learning a lot about cults and indoctrination and mind control and things like that. Really fantastic information. And I've been trying my best to communicate that to a wider audience. And I've been doing it for 3 years. So people seem to like it.
Thomas, I was told to ask you about how you guys sort of got together. Like, this is, I mean, you do independent work, but you guys are sort of a collaborative group. I don't know, set that up. How did this all come to fruition?
So about 2 years ago, I noticed that there had been a bit of a lull in atheism on YouTube, and a lot of it had turned kind of just toxic, and it was going off down a million different rabbit holes. But there were a few channels that were starting to emerge in 2016, late 2016, 2017, that really held the focus of, you can be good without God. And being an atheist says nothing about your sense of morality, that our political position should be determined based off of science and not based off of religious dogma. And I wanted to bring these people together and show them, show the rest of the world that like there is a big voice, that there's a lot of us, and when we come together, it can be strong and it can be something that is formidable and can change lives. And when we work together, we can have a wave that makes a difference. And so I set up a Facebook group just for atheist YouTubers, and I didn't want just anyone and everyone. We are a little bit exclusive, but if someone is serious about what they're doing and they put out great content and they've worked hard and they've started to build up a little bit of a following and they put out regular content that's in this niche and that's positive, and that they're not just cannibalizing their own and being negative all the time, but they're building each other up, and they realize that a rising tide floats all boats and that we're in this together and it's about a bigger mission, then those are the types of people that I want to have on board. So I set up this group. It grew to almost 60 people right now. And since I set it up, we've had so many collabs that have taken off. We've had, collaborations where you work together with another YouTuber, you shout out their channel or you make a video together and you send some traffic their way. They send some traffic your way. Your whole platform rises. We've seen that. We've had live interviews, live hangouts and stuff. And the whole community has just really prospered since then.
I heard someone talking about how YouTube atheism is dead, or actually atheist activism is dead, or the atheist movement is dead. I don't know. Every, say, 6 months, I read an article or see a blog post or a social media declaration that it's dead. We're all dead on the vine. It's wasted. It's a wasted opportunity. Dig a hole and put atheism in it. The atheist movement is dead. Anybody want to speak to that? So maybe I should start with you, Drew. What do you think?
Yeah, when someone says that, that is the telltale sign that they are getting to the end of their rope and that they're giving up on bits of their activism if they've been involved in that. And it's also a sign that they're incredibly out of touch. I actually have people comment on my videos. I think I had someone comment on my new video that I just released today that, atheism and atheism on YouTube, that's so old fashioned. That's so 10 years ago. And, we don't need to be getting into all of this again. And no one cares about this anymore. This isn't cool. It's not popular. And, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think about 132,000 people would disagree with that person that it says that. And there's hundreds of thousands of people following us all collectively. And I think that they would all disagree that, online or YouTube atheist activism is dead. Someone saying that is incredibly out of touch. And now I don't want to just rail against someone who thinks that. I want to correct someone who thinks that, give them some good resources to go to, point them to some cool channels, some cool collaborative groups, like Thomas has set up, introduce them to some new people so that they can realize where they're going wrong with that.
Anybody else want to weigh in on this one?
Well, yeah. I mean, really, since this last election, you've seen a tremendous amount of science denialism, this idea that truth is somehow relative and there's your truth and my truth. You've seen the flat earth movement has just really taken off. And anytime that there's a, giant burst in pseudoscience, there's always going to be a counter movement as long as there are people who are skeptical, who are rationally minded, and as long as science still has a dying breath to fight back against it. And so we've seen a tremendous amount of growth. Like Drew was just saying that, that he's grown this following, but that isn't a following that he's put together over 10 years. That's something that's happened extremely quickly. Almost, I don't believe in an overnight success, but if you look at his growth rate, it's enormous. It's tremendous. Telltale as well has had huge numbers. I've seen my channel start to take off very rapidly as well. And there's definitely an appetite for it. There are people who are so sick of being lied to. They're sick of the pseudoscience. They're sick of the religious fundamentalism. They're sick of turning around and seeing, churches on every single street corner and the LGBT community being, bashed left and right and atheists being denigrated and treated like second-class citizens. And there are people who are sick of it, and we've had enough. And so YouTube being the platform that it is, that really allows for content creators like us to get this kind of exposure at this kind of level and to grow this quickly, to say that it's dead is extremely not just delusional, but it's out of touch.
Telltale, you got any thoughts on this whole YouTube thing?
I do, actually. I started YouTube when I think it was 2016. It was March 2016. And the reason I started it at the time was because I felt like there was a vacuum. That, all of the YouTube atheists had moved to politics. And that was not something that really interested me. I mean, it interested me for a short time, maybe a month or two, but nobody was talking about, Ken Ham or Kent Hovind or any of these extremists. And I felt like there was a hole to fill. So I started talking about Kent Hovind originally. Then I started talking about Jehovah's Witnesses, not thinking that, anybody would really be interested in that, but I wanted to, so I did. And it was just this massive explosion of people who had an insane amount of interest. Lots of people who've been deeply hurt, not just by Jehovah's Witnesses, but by Mormons and Seventh-day Adventists and all kinds of other groups like that. So there's definitely an interest. There is an untapped market of people who are hurt and upset and want to do something about it and are willing to listen to what we have to say.
Well, let me jump. I mean, I have plenty of fun at the expense of Ken Ham and Ray Comfort and Kent Hovind and blah, blah, blah. But I'm always like, I'll dog my buddy Aaron Raw all the time because, he's always going back and forth. How relevant are the Kent Hovinds of today? How relevant is Ken Ham, Ray Comfort? How is this really the battle that we should be fighting? I'll just play devil's advocate and ask anybody who wants to answer.
Yeah, I would say that I don't know that we necessarily just have the Ken Hams and Ray Comforts of today. Like the Ken Ham is not necessarily just the Ken Ham of today. Ray Comfort, has a replacement. There are people like Matt Powell that Haven't Meta kind of made infamous in his statements against the LGBT community and his hate speech. And it's even got a lot of us started on talking about how we can counter hate speech and counter people like this in an environment on YouTube that's very different from people, 5 years ago, where things weren't censored as much as maybe they are now, or weren't demonetized as much as they are now. There are new people coming out of the woodwork on the opposite side. And yeah, like these guys have said, anytime that there's going to be, more pseudoscience or just more ridiculous delusional ideas out there in the public, there's going to be a counter movement. And we are that. We don't just have to respond to people that have been around for 10, 20 years. We can respond to the people who are just now cropping up with the same ideas, and they're relevant because they're brand new people. Now, we've had a growth and development of new ideas. When you base your ideas more so on science and something that's willing to grow and inform itself based on new data, then you get that. They have a lot of the same arguments, a lot of the same ideas. And so a lot of the time it is diversifying the ways that we respond to them. I mean, like Thomas often says that he responds to this kind of nonsense in a really laser focused and kind of energetic way with animations. And Thomas is just a really animated guy anyway. So even when he's on camera, that's how it goes. Telltale talks about extremism. He introduced me to something that I recently covered even on my channel called the Bite Model and Stephen Hassan's work, who Stephen Hassan is a cult expert. There's not a lot of people talking consistently about cults, and before Telltale at least. And then for me, I like to talk about the bridge between alternative medicine and atheism or skepticism, and just skepticism about religion in general. And so there's ways to diversify all of this stuff. So you don't just have to cash in on the lol cows, as we call them sometimes. There's also things that have always been around, ideas that have always been around, and problems that have always been around that just haven't been tackled in a laser focused way yet. And that's exactly the problem that we're all trying to solve. Yet still, people assume that I don't think the Bible is the Word of God because I've never read it. The reality is that I don't think it's the Word of God because I have. The same goes for other religions. People say, you're not a Muslim because you've never studied the Quran. Yes, I have. They'll say you're not a Buddhist because you've never studied Buddhism. Again, yes, I have. For every religion out there, there's a non-believer who has studied it extensively and still does not believe. Two great examples are Bart Ehrman for Christianity and Abdullah Samir for Islam. I understand that it can be difficult to accept that someone might have studied your ideas extensively, be in their right mind, and still have reason to reject them, because that suggests that your ideas are flawed. But that's not an excuse to egotistically assume or assert the ignorance of someone with which you disagree.
You mentioned alternative medicine. Have you seen it's a political cartoon or something about a mother rushing her child into the emergency room because he'd overdosed? And they go, what did he take? And he's like, oh, it's a homeopathic pill. And all the doctors just fall over laughing their asses off. It's kind of a visual gag, but I figured that's right up your alley, right? You get into homeopathy and all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And there's a little bit, speaking of just new things that have popped up lately, there are a lot of people my age and even younger that are really frustrated with a new movement of people around our parents' age that are even more so into alternative medicine than maybe they used to be, especially essential oils. So essential oils tend to be a little bit more popular among the generation that is the age of our parents or so. And so there's a lot of us, my age, that see all of that. We see firsthand the damage that relying on alternative medicine for medical treatment can do. And we're all looking to rally against it. And so, yeah, I actually got sent that exact meme I think by like 5 different people who were all under the age of 21 on, I guess, the day that it really sprung up into popularity on the internet. And it's odd to have so many people that are younger than me. I'm 24, but into this mindset because they've seen their parents especially get so, bogged down with some of these ideas. It's like when teenagers and young people start getting upset about their parents enforcing their religious ideas when the teenagers kind of start to grow up and out of some of those religious ideas. It can be the same kind of struggle. And so that's why I like to talk about alternative medicine and atheism or just religion in general.
Telltale or Thomas, we've been talking here with Drew for a while. So anything we've missed you want to jump in on? Or
Sure. One thing that stood out to me when you said that, why go after the Kenneth Copelands and why go after the Ken Hams? Well, those people, they never left. And while they have been countered online and pretty much every point that they've put forth has been shot down and has been shown for the garbage that it is, those aren't the only people in town. Right now, you have people like Jordan Peterson who have kind of a variation on Christianity where they say, oh, I'm a Christian. And, atheists are all like Hitler and Stalin and Mao, and atheism is bad. And they have a fundamental misunderstanding of what it is. But this is someone with a tremendously huge platform. You look at the president's Evangelical Advisory Board. These are people who are giving advice to the president on how to win the evangelical vote. And it's people like Paula White and Rodney Howard-Browne, people who will get up in front of their audience and babble in tongues in religious Pentecostal nonsense.
What I'm about to show you is a clip from circa 1994 of 2 grown adult men speaking in tongues, speaking absolute gibberish back and forth to each other and pretending like they understand what the other person is saying in front of a crowd of thousands. The 2 men are Rodney Howard-Browne and Kenneth Copeland. And the craziest part is both of these nuts have ties to President Trump, and Kenneth Copeland is officially on the president's Evangelical Advisory Board. Take a look.
Doesn't matter what they think. Oh, no bordiesta pacaliado. Oh, le bevedia pashodopre. In a manba no boko lombon jemba. Plama pangala my head. Estes cap. Pol bamine maye pe pamaton dobo
And they're the ones who are advising the president. And they're the ones who have massive church followings with, tens of thousands of people. And that represents a drop in the bucket. So, of course, there needs to be a pushback. There needs to be people because there's new snake oil salesmen coming along every single day. And it's not just religious stuff. You have, the David Avocado Wolves of the world that have like 12 million Facebook likes on their page. And they're saying that, oh, don't take vaccines because, they'll give you autism. But if you take urine and in a little syringe that you just peed into and you inject it into yourself, it can cure cancer. And people are dying from this stuff.
Yeah, so every time I hear David Avocado Wolf's name, I think chocolate is an octave of sun energy. And I don't know what to do with that, but I want to do something with it. Like, what the flip is he talking about? Hey, Telltale, let's talk about extremism. Do you get into, if you're into studying cults and how they operate, you get into totalism and how these cult leaders and environments lock people off from their environments and totally dictate every aspect of their lives?
Yeah, I do actually get into that. I was just talking about this the other day. Stephen Hassan released an influence continuum model fairly recently. And it's talking about how everybody is influenced in society. If you live in society, then you're going to be influenced by somebody. Even if it's your friend influencing you to go to Red Lobster instead of Outback, right? So what's the difference between me, for example, influencing people to think critically about cults versus a cult influencing somebody to believe in their doctrine? And what it comes down to ultimately is the idea that there's constructive and healthy influence and there's destructive and unhealthy influence. If you are encouraging somebody to follow, or if you're encouraging somebody to build their own personal identity versus trying to get them to take on this cult identity, then that's healthy. That's constructive influence. So those are the types of things I talk about. We need to realize that cults have very specific goals. Based on the Byte model, cults are commonly going to have a set of shared beliefs. They'll commonly try to shield members from criticism, divide things into black and white thinking, teach thought-stopping techniques, all that stuff. And that stuff adds up to a shared identity with other people, beyond a sense of unity. You become clones of each other, feeding off of each other's shared experiences. The cult wants to replace your authentic identity with their own. I've been saying for years that Jehovah's Witnesses wear this mask 24/7. On an individual level, when they're trying to influence you, they'll also use conditional love instead of unconditional love. That plays into this system of rewards and punishments. A lot of the time, you'll hear them say things like, well, everybody has a line where they'll start shunning other people. If your son turned out to be a murderer, then you'd shun him too. The problem with that rationalization is the fact that the cult decides the basis on which the person should shun family members, based on their own doctrine instead of basing it on the person's conscience. Influence shouldn't come in the form of solemnity, fear, and guilt. It should come in the form of creativity and humor. That encourages the person to build and maintain their own identity.
So, we live in the controversy for clicks era, right? The idea is you stir the pot, you get people talking, you get people arguing, the clicks come in. If you're lucky, you get it monetized these days. You guys don't subscribe to that model. Anybody want to talk about sort of the temperature of your channels and activism online and elsewhere?
I think overall, it's kind of speaking for just about everybody in this part of the YouTube community. We all try to not profit off of vitriol, off of just kind of drama, outrage culture. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to have constructive conversations. Now, there are ways to essentially use our inherent nature of flocking to something that might outrage us for the benefit of actually combating outrage culture. So there's something that I do personally, and I kind of call it Trojan horse marketing. So a lot of the time when I recommend someone to watch a video of mine, or when someone I know in real life finds out I have a YouTube channel and just wants to know what it is, I'll say, I'll just go give you a fair warning. My thumbnails will look a little bit more controversial than my subject matter actually is. And so they'll see some of this stuff, and it'll be my face here, real close up with text right across it. And it looks like I'm like a little bit angry or something. Or, I have a video that says like Muslim feminist accidentally debunks Islam or something. And it draws in people that want to be outraged. And then the content itself that is delivered is pacifying. It's appealing to, hey, I know that you're probably angry about this. I know that you probably have something to say about this, but here's how we can think critically about it and actually make some productive movement, just some progress on this issue. So let's think about it calmly and rationally, consider what we need to do, and then take action rather than just reacting to our screens and, throwing and breaking things. So hopefully some people that you really want to see this kind of more pacifying, calm, rational content are going to see your content if you make it look, you disguise it a little bit like it's something more controversial or more outrageous than it actually is.
Anything to add, Telltale or Holy Koolaid?
So one thing, when I set up the group, I had the option and the opportunity to add some of the content creators who do tend to be more controversial. And oftentimes they make drama videos. And they might have some good points. I might agree with a lot of their points. But if I see a channel that is deliberately throwing other people under the bus, making drama where there isn't drama, and rather than going to someone that they disagree with and calling up and saying, hey, like, what's going on, man? Like, I'm really worried about this, rabbit hole that you're going down. Like, it concerns me. Instead, some of these channels they'll create a dumpster fire because they know that it gets eyeballs. And they know that it gets views and it brings people in, and their channel will take off and grow. And a lot of those channels have kind of moved on from atheism and philosophy and stuff, and they've moved on to being drama channels. And I'm not going to call anyone out, but I see that happening. And those are not people that I really consider in our community. Those are, yes, they may be atheists. Yes, they may be pro-science. They may be skeptical, but they're not bringing the community up with them.
Well, let me jump in here real fast, Thomas. Forgive the interruption, and Telltale, you can jump in, or anybody. But they are the examples that are sort of put out front and center by those who are saying that it's all toxified, right? The waters are contaminated. The atheist movement, especially on YouTube. The most popular YouTubers on our side, quote unquote, are these awful people. And they'll list 2 or 3 of them. And those are their cases in point. How do you respond to that? Anybody?
I would say look at Social Blade. I don't like to just like gloat about numbers or something like that, but look at somebody like the 3 of us look at Cosmic Skeptic, who's a big part of the impetus of this community. I think look at Rationality Rules, and you'll see that some of the newer people that have smaller numbers as far as subscribers that haven't been around as long are doing as well or sometimes better than the people who are propped up as the most popular in the community. Or as representative of the community. You know, there are people that started their channels in 2009, and I'm told that they are the representatives of the entire community online here. And it's a little strange to me when there is maybe a newer YouTuber that's out here that has 40, 50,000 subscribers, and they're getting a whole lot more attention than this person who's been around for 10 years. I don't know if it's because their content is fresher. I don't know if it's just because people are hopping on a trend or something like that. But if you look at sheer numbers, our community is doing extremely well. And if you're looking at it that way, if you're looking at statistics there, we represent the community. The people that have been around for quite a long time don't represent it quite as much as maybe they used to. So that's probably the first argument I'd employ against that.
Telltale, you see it often, don't you? People like to define an argument by its extreme or extremists.
Yeah, that's true. Something else I actually wanted to touch on also is the fact that these people who at one time may have been representatives or may have gotten into the atheist community, they've kind of attracted an audience that is not originally from the atheist community. In fact, a lot of these people aren't even atheist. Many of the fans of some toxic groups, right? So the original atheist community, it is kind of slowing down. It's kind of dying away, but this new brand, we are coming up and rising from the ashes of that. And, I have stood for a few things since the beginning. First of all, we don't need to mock people. I don't know where this idea came from. It's virtuous to mock people. That's not good to me. It feels like if you want to get to truth, if you want to help people, if you want to try to help them figure out what's true and maybe get them out of their extremist ideas, you need to approach things rationally and calmly and nicely, a street epistemology kind of approach, if you will. So that's kind of been my goal since day one. But yeah, I do see a lot of extremism from all kinds of places, and I try not to get it. I try to stick to atheism and cults generally on my channel, but every now and then I will address some extremist stuff in politics. Not very often, but if it's there, it's there.
If I can interject something really quick, I'm sure Thomas has something to say about this. Being part of the kind of newer community that we have really doesn't have so much to do with just having been around for a certain amount of time. And if it did, I don't think any of us would value being on the show that we're on right now, and we all do immensely. It has to do with having a certain kind of approach and certain kind of attitude that is about being productive. It is not about this kind of outrage culture that's popped up. So there are people that have been around since 2010 or even much further away than that we consider integral to this community, but it's because they've had an attitude of wanting to create a productive discourse. That's really what we're about, not so much just being new or hip or in or whatever.
I'm trying to decide, hopefully I fall into the good guy category. I'm one of those sort of teddy bear guys, although I do enjoy roasting sacred cows. I mean, Telltale was speaking to mockery. And, I'll admit when it comes to specific, I mean, if Ray Comfort does something stupid, I mean, I'm more than happy to roast whatever he has done over the open flame. But I do completely agree, especially in the one-on-ones, where we're not just talking about ideas, but we're talking to people. And instead of treating them like the other, we begin treating them like human beings. We don't judge them as stupid or inferior, or all these sort of pieces of invective that I used to see a lot of in the atheist movement. And it's SE is really, street epistemology is really starting to become influential. I know it's been so in my own life. I don't know, Thomas, I sort of cut you off there. Did you want to weigh in on any of this stuff about sort of new guard, old guard tactics, anything like that?
There's a big difference between mocking a person and mocking an idea, and also mocking actions. So there can be someone who's incredibly intelligent who does something incredibly foolish, and they encourage others to do the same. An example of that, I made a video about speaking in tongues, and it was just a mashup of some of the most ridiculous tongue speaking compilations ever. And I used the video as a tool to show people what's the science behind it, what other cultures and other religions also practice glossolalia, or speaking in tongues. And then I showed this compilation of pastors who were getting up and just rambling in gibberish and treating it like it's something noble or something divine. And it's ridiculous. Now, I'm not going to get in front of it and be like, oh, you're such a stupid person or something, get like angry or hateful or vitriolic about it. But I will show it, because I think, it deserves to be seen. And this is something that they're promoting. And so I want to expose it. So that I think that there is a way to do mockery of really bad ideas and still say, but these people, they can be saved, for lack of a better word. They can, come around. They can turn over a new leaf and stop promoting dogma and BS and bad ideas, and actually be honest and search into the facts of, is any of this true or not?
Talking here with Telltale, with Thomas Westbrook, Holy Koolaid, and Genetically Modified Skeptic. Anything else that you feel? I mean, I've got a whole second half planned with 3 other atheist YouTubers, but is there anything specific about you, your work, your channels, the culture, activism in general, changing minds that any of you want to sort of weigh in on? Because, you have done, even in the last 2 years, 3 years, you've done a lot of this. You've got a lot of content, and I think you have a lot of really good ideas. Anybody want to sound off?
I'll just say that the atheist community, like you've said before, Seth, is alive and well. And if we want it to continue to be that way, then we have to realize when new people come along, and when new people have new and good ideas. There are people that are going to change and improve things about the atheist community, and we have to be able to recognize when that's happening, when people don't have good ideas, and essentially always be vigilant for people who are coming along and wanting to shape things up for the better. They'll always come along. There are people that have come along since, just in the last 6 months even, that have shown me a lot of new things and shaken things up for me and made me realize a lot of the things that I hadn't realized in the past, and have made me realize that the atheist community is going to keep going strong if we, people that are established and have platforms, will invest in some of the new people that show promise and have the energy that maybe we once had for all of this, or maybe people that are just more talented or skilled than us. And so that's why I'm really glad that you're going to have some people that are, I'll admit, all 3 of them are probably more talented than I am, and they'll probably outshine me at some point. And I'm just fine with that. So I'm glad that they're going to end up coming on.
I'm not used to all this positivity on YouTube. It's just like, what parallel do you, what weird, like this is the upside down from Stranger Things. Like YouTube is a vast wasteland. YouTube has been historically often where discourse goes to die. And yet everybody's being like respectful, and we're having conversations, and even when it comes to disagreement, nobody's, throwing anything at anybody else. It's just hugely refreshing. So,
the climate is changing. It's definitely changing. People were tired of it. They want to have a community. They realize that it sucks to be denigrated and to be treated like you're some, monster, demonic devil worshiper or something. And atheism isn't new. You can come along and try to throw in humanism, try to throw in other things and stuff. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it the new atheist, atheism plus. I don't really care what label you want to throw on it. Atheism has been around since the dawn of time. We're all born not believing in God until someone starts lying to us. And so we're trying to come along and say, look, we're getting back to basics. We care about separation of church and state. We care that atheists not be denigrated, and show people that you can be good without God. that you really can be a good person without believing in bullshit. And at the same time that all of our laws and stuff should be based on science, all of our medicine should be based on science, and you don't have to lie to people. So that's us in a nutshell. And hopefully this trend will continue. If, obviously people are going to come and go, but secularism, it lives on and it's strong.
Telltale, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I completely agree with all of that. I think that there's been a long history of some anger and toxic behavior. The thing is, when you realize that you've been lied to your whole life, you get upset, you get angry. That happens. I know almost every atheist that I've ever known has gone through that angry phase. I went through that angry phase, At this point, my goal is to channel that anger into not toxic behavior where you're tearing people down on an individual basis and trying to, ruin their lives or something. I'm trying to target it so that maybe we can work together to tear down an institution that is damaging to society. So that's what my goal has been since day one. And there are a lot of people out there who can get on board with that, who felt abandoned when a lot of that toxic behavior started happening. We just have to bring them in from the cold. That's it.
I like the sound of it. It's funny. People often ask, hey, why do you do what you do? And I'm like, I want to learn stuff. I want to help people. Right. And it sounds to me like that's kind of you guys' thing. Let's learn something new. Let's help people. Dillahunty's got that great line. I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. And I like your style. I'm going to make sure and link to each of your channels in the description box. I would encourage everybody within the sound of my voice to visit these channels, explore their work, be a part of the conversations, subscribe. And thanks to all three of you for being a part of the show today. It's been a real honor to have you.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Coming up after the break, I'm going to talk to three more online activists. Shannon Q, I had her on a show recently. We were talking about these deliverance counselors. She'll be back. I've got Eric Murphy from Talk Heathen. He's part of the atheist community of Austin, Texas. And Jimmy of Mr. Atheist is going to join us right after this. Hang on. Imagine for just a second if Charles Darwin had explored and written about evolution with the understanding we have today, with the technology we have today. I mean, he wrote on the origin of species 150 years ago, and it changed the world. Well, Dr. Scott Solomon has this series at the Great Courses Plus that takes Darwin's groundbreaking work and builds upon it. The series is called What Darwin Didn't Know, The Modern Science of Evolution, expounding on Darwin's tree of life and the branches of ancestry, using our recent discoveries about the decoded genome and our relationship with all living things, the fact that there are actually many origins of species. And Dr. Solomon gets into how we define a species and how species evolved. Human evolution. Are we done evolving? That kind of stuff. With the Great Courses Plus, you can get unlimited access to this course and so many others, with categories ranging from science to world history to art and literature to cooking and travel, streaming right to you wherever you are on your schedule. I just know you're going to love the Great Courses Plus. And right now, my listeners can get a free trial with unlimited access to the entire library. Start your free trial today. Go to thegreatcoursesplus.com/Seth. thegreatcoursesplus.com/Seth. I'm back here for part 2 of a conversation that we're having about YouTube activism, sort of a next generation, as much as I hate to say that, next generation, because I freaking sound like a grandfather clock. Joining me, I've got Shannon Q, who has her own YouTube channel. I've got Eric Murphy of the Atheist Community of Austin. He's the Director of Communications there, and he's also one of the hosts of Talk Heathen, which broadcast out on YouTube. And then I've got Mr. Atheist. Jimmy, thanks for being a part of the show, my friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
I keep hearing this narrative that atheist YouTube is dead and atheist YouTube is contaminated. I mentioned this to my previous guest. I'll toss it out to you.
Sure.
What do you think?
YouTube is a medium. So to say that YouTube atheism is dead is kind of a misnomer, because YouTube is just a medium for communication via social media. It's a tool that people have the ability to use in order to reach a wider audience. I think one of the reasons that people say something like that is because they affiliate YouTube atheism with a certain set of atheists that they've previously been familiar with. But that is certainly not what the community is. What the community is in a broader sense is far more, I'm struggling for words here because the breadth of it is really astounding. Like, everybody has their own specific niche and area of expertise and audience. And the fact that we've all found each other and can communicate with each other and can collaborate in order to allow our audiences to introduce to each other is really a beautiful thing. We are the accumulation, interpretation, and incorporation of our perceived experiences in this life. When you are a child, you are even more vulnerable to the effects of this. When the people you trust to keep you safe impart to you that your mere existence should constitute a constant state of fear of imminent, invisible danger, unless you become compliant to an unreasonable standard of behavior. And even that isn't permanent protection, because there are doorways of word curses and generational curses that are outside of your control. The damage is done, and it is immensely difficult to fix. Please, I beg you, if your children need help, don't do this.
Eric, you guys do your show in front of a live audience down there in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, we do.
And so talk about community. I mean, you see the house is packed, I think, pretty much every Sunday, or what?
Every Sunday. Yeah, no, it's, well, I mean, geez, those are totally different questions. So, yeah, we pack the house. We get people coming in from all over the world. But I mean, to be fair, it's mostly for our big sister show, The Atheist Experience.
No, hell no. Dude, I'd be riding those coattails. I would totally be like, oh, I'm glad that The Atheist Experience could open for us. You know, that's how I'd be playing that.
In time.
I think it's tragic that religion will break your leg to sell you a crutch that way and sell you on something that's going to boost you up to a place where I mean, we live in this world, and everybody wants superpowers. You know, I was talking to an ex-Mormon, and they were talking about what happens when you join the priesthood at 10 years old or something like that, and you get special powers. You get the power of discernment. I want powers. I want the ability to speak languages without having to study them. I want the ability to heal people with the powers of my hands and bring people back to life and make money appear when you haven't invested or worked for it.
I wish I could fly so I could carry Victor up and show him the earth isn't flat.
Right?
There you go. Right.
I mean, when you say YouTube atheism is dead, dude, it's just beginning. It is just beginning. I mean, I'm taking a look at the other people that you've got here. Jimmy, dude, I am proud, man. How many subs did you have when I first saw you? Like less than 10. And every single time I see your channel, I just get this big, giant grin.
Yes, in the Bible, the people that were identified as women, they were not allowed to seek out their own identity and be their own person. That is another thing that a society that claims to have a phone line directly to God should have gotten right.
Women were pretty much housewives, and so this was kind of a mercy to them because they were basically supported and taken care of for the rest of their lives.
Try and put yourself in the shoes of any one of these people and consider the idea that you, as you are now, have been taken captive by a person, and you are meant to think of it as mercy because while they have just murdered everyone you've ever known and loved, save it be maybe if you have a virgin sister as well, but your father, your brothers, anybody they identify as men, and any other non-virgin, the people you know and love are now dead, but they saved you, so that's an act of mercy. What kind of God are you defending?
Man, you are killing it. And it's because you put in the work and you're not stopping there. You're reaching out. You know, I saw you had Luxander on your show, right? It's reaching out and finding people. Shannon, First time I talked to you, you didn't even have a channel.
What exactly was she doing?
I had 1,000 subscribers before I posted a video.
Yes! Because you are amazing. The fact is we're reaching across borders. We're reaching across states when we're creating something amazing together, and everybody gets to join us for it.
What's your secret, Jimmy, Mr. Atheist? Tell me what would explain this sort of surge in subscribers. I mean, what's the appeal, do you think?
Okay, so it's very odd to be asked the question, what's so great about you, Jimmy?
I want you to pretend like your mother is writing a letter about her son, like a proud letter.
Okay.
I want you to tell me what's so great about you, okay?
Okay, so let me get into my mother. Jimmy is an absolute disappointment.
My mother is very British and very Mormon.
But as far as, so I kind of want to take on the tail end of what Shannon was saying there, because I actually think the atheist YouTube community was dying and that there's a new wave of people, because I think there were some channels that were independent of this. So this doesn't apply to everybody, but the most popular channels seem to have been honing in on a very specific audience, and it didn't feel appealing to a much broader audience. And I think the new wave has more diversity, more voices, is more accepting of people they maybe didn't understand before. And I mean, I'm meeting people that years ago, even as an atheist, I hadn't even begun to try and understand their perspective, their way of life. And now they've become some of my closest friends. So I think having channels that are welcoming to an audience that wasn't like what people conceptualize as the traditional atheist audience, I think is going to be hugely advantageous for all the channels across the board. And I just got lucky and got the first bump from the algorithm for that audience.
No. You don't get that. You don't get that out, man. I'm sorry.
I was trying to draw from that line from 13th Warrior where luck will often save a man if his courage holds. You know, I was thinking that when you said that.
He also doesn't sleep, and he just
That's exactly it. The guy busts his butt, and I don't think he's done anything but YouTube for a year.
Let me throw this out.
I made him take a 2-day break.
YouTubers, there's a couple of very specific YouTube related questions. One is that with YouTube Red and it producing its own series like Cobra Kai and others, there is a complaint that YouTube is becoming less and less of a user platform, and they're going to try to become the next Netflix, which for many seems like a betrayal of the very people, the lifeblood of YouTube. These are supposed to be about everybody everywhere being able to upload their content, and now it would appear that YouTube is trying to go Hollywood. Anybody want to speak to that?
I think I may be a clear attestation to the fact that that's not necessarily the case. But for the just obvious fact that I did have 1,000 subscribers before I even posted a video. And one of the reasons I had 1,000 subscribers is because I wandered all over the platform engaging in conversations with people. What I really wanted to do, how I got into YouTube, is I wanted to be part of the conversation. So I went into these conversations on other people's channels, on debate channels, on conversation channels, and people started to become aware of me and ask me to generate content. So I had 1,000 subscribers before I posted a single video. I've posted maybe 20 videos, and I'm encroaching upon 10,000. And I've been at this for less than a year. So if nothing else, that's clear evidence, I would say, that there's an appetite for this. There are people that want to see good conversations. There are people that want to see well-cited research articulated in a fashion that they can consume. There is an appetite for it. If you have a defeatist attitude and you just think, well, YouTube is going this way and therefore that means that they're no longer for this, and then you don't even try, then there's no demonstration that it can be done. I think if nothing, to my credit, I'm an attestation to the fact that there is an appetite for good conversations and content where people feel as though they're being spoken to in a way that they can understand and relate to, and that it's wanted. And I feel a great swell of gratitude for that, because it's been just a real benefit to my life to be able to be part of those conversations and meet those people and be part of those conversations. So I don't think that that's necessarily the case. I think that people can say that it is based on their outside in perspective, but it's just not. People are still consuming this media. Like, look at me, look at Jimmy. Like when I met Jimmy, when I met you, you only had like maybe 100 subscribers.
Anybody, Jimmy or Eric, you guys want to weigh in on sort of the I mean, they were always commercial, but you know what I'm talking about. What do you think?
But here's the thing. Nobody is turning off their TVs because they're going, oh my gosh, there's way too much atheist content. I just can't handle I mean, oh God. Yes, you're absolutely right. Yes, there is room, and there's room for everybody because it's a rising tide. That just means that the more people that are in the pool, the better it has to get.
Right.
You know, the only thing that happened, especially, you know, Seth, the way you put that is the difference is production quality, and we're blurring the line. And the more we blur that line, the more we lower the barrier for entry, the better the quality is going to get the entire way around.
Jimmy, I see you aching to jump in here.
Yeah. I want to be the pessimist who craps on everything everyone just said.
Not really. I'm not really going to crap on what you get. But there are some actual, like, really concerning things happening, I think, that, if anything, I'm just going to use this opportunity to encourage people to support independent creators, because there are things like, so if we just look at the thing most of culture knows about, the concept of T-Series about to overtake PewDiePie. Whether you like PewDiePie or not, that is a big company that's more affiliated with what you would see with like traditional media that's about to pass an independent creator, kind of taking the U out of YouTube, which that was YouTube's thing is broadcast yourself. Additionally, there is some problems for content creators like me who they have this copyright system that they don't really hold anybody accountable to. So when I do a fair use review of a video, a person can basically steal my revenue from that video and not be held accountable even if they're in the wrong unless I'm willing to sue them. So there is issues with like traditional media kind of working its way in there. And sort of like there are people trying to take the U out of YouTube. So if anything, I agree with everything Eric and Shannon said. And obviously I can't complain because YouTube's doing very well for me. But so my biggest thing is if you like YouTube the way it is, please support independent creators. And don't support traditional media. Maybe not the last part.
I can attest to that because none of us are really like YouTube isn't the source of revenue generation for almost any content creator anymore. It's just a platform so that people can.
Okay, well, let me jump in on that note because it was my next question, and I'm losing you periodically, Eric. So we'll wait for him to come back. I'd like to make sure he hears the question.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well, here's the question for you.
Okay,
all right?
Sure.
Monetization.
What's that?
In the past, we have been able to a degree, be able to become a YouTube partner. And then if something is clicked, the creator gets a tiny piece of whatever advertising dollar, the pre-roll, post-roll, whatever. Advertising money used to be kind of a big deal for people like us. And then it seems that somebody kind of tightened the noose. Has this been your experience? Like I'm seeing stuff that is the most benign, innocuous videos that should be completely like G-rated, and they are deemed unsuitable for advertisers, and therefore they cannot be monetized, meaning that that's income that I lose. I'm not doing it for the income, but I'm also a full-time activist, and it matters. Anybody have this experience, and what do you think?
Yeah, it's very rare that I post a video. It may be a little bit different for me than it is for Jimmy and Eric because I'm a smaller content creator. So when I post a video, the way that YouTube works is that it won't even review your monetization status until you hit 1,000 views in a week. Now, I've posted videos that, like my biggest video right now has just over 10,000 views on my channel. So if I lose the revenue from the first 1,000 views, that's most of the revenue from that video. And pretty much every video I've ever posted is instantly demonetized. What's fun about that is that it'll still have ads on it.
So they're making money on your... All right. Well, I mean, come on. You and I did a show back in January about these deliverance ministries, and we got into specific Christian counseling, and you know that because it's sort of a harsh criticism of these fundamentalist operations, that YouTube's probably going to want to play it safe, right? I mean, do you just expect that's not going to be monetized right off the bat?
Yes, instantly. Yeah, I absolutely do. And that's not the reason that I do it. Thank goodness. It's certainly not. It's not what motivates me. So I would do it for free. However, here's, I guess, kind of my pitch for why content creators deserve the revenue. That video, for example, I spent over a month researching nonstop. It's all I did is spent over a month researching the lights that you see flanking me, the screen behind me, which also has a white and a green screen along with the shelf. Like, those things cost money. In order for me to be able to generate content that's of a high enough quality that people are intrigued by it and interested in seeing it, I need to put revenue into the channel. I'm operating on a computer that's 10 years old, that I'm every time I do something like this, I'm like, please just don't die in the middle of doing
I
this.
thought maybe Commodore 64.
It's an Acer.
Something like that, yeah.
It's an Acer. Whatever an Acer is, that's what computer I'm currently using. And it's a tower desktop. But, I mean, it functions and it does what I need it to do. But it would be nice if I had a computer that it didn't take hours to stream. And I could stream without lag. It would be nice if I had a computer that I could edit my own videos because it would hold editing software. Like, those things are nice. Being able to improve the quality of the channel is completely dependent on the revenue that the channel can generate. And most of us cycle it back into the content. And you can see that because the quality of the content increases as the channel size increases and our patrons increase. And it's certainly not because of ad revenue, because I literally make dollars.
Mr. Atheist, you want to chime in, I see?
I'm just nodding a lot. Yeah, that's so I'm a professional artist for a living, though I'm shifting over to YouTube being my full-time gig. And it's the exact same principle over there. If you want quality and production and all of those things to improve and channels to be able to grow, revenue is a really important thing. And unfortunately, right now, the revenue system really, it gets quite good once you start passing 50,000 subscribers. Before that, it's like she was talking about, your first 1,000 views, losing those to revenue. And then it's however long it takes to even get reviewed. Like, I had a video demonetized this week that it wasn't until its 30,000th view that it finally, the monetization came back on after review. That stuff's for people to put in the amount of work and passion they want to, being able to not just be able to keep up with production and improve yourself, but feed yourself and have, let me tell you, I don't have a social life. I probably would, and I probably will at some point when I can afford a social life. But, it is a job, especially the people like everyone here who take it seriously. It is a real job. And just like I'm a photographer for a living and I also do high-end, photo retouching and things like that, the money from there, I sucked at it, but I started to charge for it. And then I got better because money unlocks the ability to learn more skills and get better equipment. And that's the case here. It's important that we do it. And I wish they would have a better system that wasn't so favorable to bigger channels.
Do you worry about burnout? I mean, if you're not sleeping, I mean, I'm sure all of you guys, you're building a channel from scratch. You have all of this content you're putting out single-handedly. And I'm speaking a little bit from personal experience, right? This is a leading question because I need affirmation. But I mean, to love what you do, and to love the audience and community and wanting to change the world, you probably, do all of you feel like I cannot not do this? Like, I can't shut it off. I would die inside if I couldn't express the things I'm thinking about. Does that happen for you? Yes?
Absolutely.
No?
It's worth every sacrifice.
Yes, absolutely.
I've become very attached to doing this. Yeah. Sorry, I thought, sorry, Eric.
No, it's all good. I actually feel like I'm kind of on the outs here because, number one, I've never seen a penny. Because with Talk Heathen, all of it goes to the atheist community of Austin, and they do amazing work with that money. So when it comes to the monetization and all of that, because it's going to the nonprofit, yeah, there's plenty of stuff that gets demonetized, but everything that does goes to good work. And so I really haven't had a huge issue there. But at the same time, I also haven't had to put all of that work in. I'm actually just now learning what it takes to be on the other side and do the editing and all of that. And holy crap, that is difficult. There is so much. I mean, you're looking at this and all of this, but this comes from two things, you know, and neither of those is monetization. Number one, I cashed out my retirement and put everything into this. And number two, I have an amazing roommate who has a few patrons who kicked in most of this. I mean,
oh my God, where's my American Express card? Because you're breaking my heart, dude.
I know, right?
I got a checkbook. Hang on, let me write you a check. God.
No, but here's the thing is, Shannon, you absolutely hit it. It doesn't matter. You know, it doesn't matter if you're looking at demonetization when the fact is you have something to say. You know, we're getting the chance to say it. And that is freaking amazing. That's worth it. And yeah, it's going to happen, you know, hopefully. And I think, you know, we have some amazing people who support everything that we do. So I hope that's going to turn around. But even if it didn't, we're still going to be here. Shannon, you just nailed that.
Yeah. And I just to interject for a second, like I know that when it comes to monetization, especially where we're activists, and this is something that's important to us, people are like, well, why does the money matter, right? Why would it matter? And it does matter to a certain degree. Like I said, I do it for free. I do it if there was absolutely no quality to my content. Obviously, if people have seen my content, I mean, it's all right. I think it's good. I have a green screen now. Things look a lot cooler. However, if the content is better packaged, you're able to reach a wider audience. It's more palatable and consumable by a wider audience. And that allows you to let this message reach farther. That's what I want. That's why I recycle everything into this. I'm not rolling around in the, $1 bills that I get. I'm in Canada. We don't have $1 bills, but I'm not rolling around in dough from this channel. Everything I get gets recycled into the channel. And that's why it's important. I don't want it to seem like we're like, oh, woe is me, like YouTube, wham, monetization. No. I do it regardless. All of us would do it regardless. And that's why we do it, because believe me, we're in the realm of regardless right now. We are in the realm of regardless.
I'm reminded of when I first got into atheist activism. It was 2009, 2010. And, I became acutely aware of the need for storytellers. Like, we have a great story, but at the time, and it's getting better, but we had all these PhD types and very clinical sort of philosophers and deep thinkers and scientists, but we didn't have storytellers. And I remember going to a convention, it was in Colorado, I think, and they had a great speaker and recording it for the YouTube audience. They'd taken one camera and they'd stuck it at the back of the auditorium. It was looking over, 300 heads. And the speaker, you couldn't even identify who they were. He wasn't mic'd. Like we've had, there's been a learning curve in the atheist movement about how to bring people into these conversations. I like to say we're in the excellence business, right? Because in a YouTube culture where you're a needle in a stack of needles, everybody and their dog is doing it. Excellence is one of the ways to rise above. And so I'm glad to see that, you guys are producing excellent content. It's really not that you need my endorsement, but I mean, it's just like, it's so cool to see people concerned about quality. It's awesome. So
honestly, Seth, it's an honor coming from you though. It is.
And it matters. And it really matters. If you want to be able to reach people in an impactful way, being able to prove that, you're researched and you mean what you say and you're genuine in your message is of paramount importance. People have bullshit detectors.
Yeah.
They can sense if you don't mean it.
Yeah. Do you guys read the comment sections?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Can we talk? I mean, come on. You're my bartender. I'm your bartender. Let's talk about the comment sections. Is there any discourse that can be had on a YouTube? Because I think I've seen blog comments, I've seen Facebook, I've seen Twitter. There's something unique to YouTube, and I see some beautiful stuff. But I also see a lot of other stuff. Tell me your thoughts about the YouTube comment section. And you know what? I'll start with you, Jimmy, Mr. Atheist. You're on the spot. What do you think?
Thick Jesus. Lay it, Daddy.
So I do read the comments, and I usually set it according to like time. So I try to always cover like the first 2 hours of comments on a video, because otherwise I just don't have time between that and emails and everything else. So I try to always catch the first 2 hours of comments. I think I am an outlier here because one of the advices I was given when I first started was don't read the comments, that they will just tear you down. But I have 12 siblings. So
you did say Mormon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I am still technically a Mormon. I'm still on their books.
So I was going to say, we know what causes that, but I mean, it's a whole other conversation. That's a whole other show, Jimmy. Go ahead.
And beyond that, like, my family dynamic, and I've talked about this a lot on my channel because it's part of like the indoctrination stuff you're raised with. My family dynamic is hyper competitive. Everyone who meets my family, every time someone gets married, for some reason, their significant other always knows I'm the one to come to and be like, dude, you have the weirdest family I've ever seen. Because we are all, when my brother calls and is trying to compliment me for something, my natural instinct is, what do you want? What are you trying to get out of me? So because of that, I am totally unaffected by negative comments because I don't know these people. It's like, you are as much of a stranger as a stranger could possibly be. So why would I care that you think I'm an SJW? That's something people throw at me like it's an insult all the time. Even though I don't take up that label or use it. I got it today. I see you're wearing your SJW badge today. And so I'm not much affected by it, but I can see how a lot of people are. The comment section is probably where the best and the worst things on YouTube happen, I think.
Agreed. Anybody else?
Those are
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, you get some of the best burns ever. And it is so, so good. That's where Jimmy got the nickname Thick Jesus. It's beautiful.
It was Fat Jesus at first.
Fat Jesus. And then he's thick. That's right.
Do I need to let the hair down?
I got, yeah, baby. Oh, look at that. Wow. Right? I was told that I look like a cross between, no. I was told that I look like they named Rick Moranis King of the North. It's beautiful.
Eric, don't you really appreciate though the insults that actually are good and have like a good?
I want that on my epitaph.
You realize now whoever's watching this is listening to the sound of your voices and they're thinking, challenge accepted. Now they're going to rush off to your channel.
Roast me. Roast me. Do it.
That's a hard challenge, man. There's some hard ones to top.
It's beautiful.
That's called engagement, though. Give me that algorithm love. Come and hate on me. I don't care.
Go ahead, comment.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead, Eric.
Oh, I was just going to say, sometimes it can be harsh. But the thing is, from my experience, and I don't know if it's different for the three of you, because all of my stuff so far has been live, right? Oh crap!
Except for this, his camera, for our audio listeners, his camera just cut out. Well, like. Okay, I'm not even talking about them coming after me as a host. I mean, that is what it is. I'm talking about watching people fight with each other. I cannot watch the train wreck of the dehumanization, the vilification, the nonstop escalation. It hurts my heart. I just lose I hate to say lose faith. I just sort of lose the will to participate in that way.
See, I differ from you because I interject in those, and I try to. It's the psychologist in me, I guess. It's the communication enthusiast in me. When I see these things happening, particularly in my comment section, my instinct is to interject and attempt to de-escalate.
For how long? For how long?
For how long? I'll usually give it a try a couple of times. And I find if you can concisely bring forth a summation of what both people are trying to get at, and get past the personal attacks that they're making at each other, and then get them to agree on the summations via mirroring, then they'll feel as though they're listened to. And once they feel as though they're listened to, if they're legitimate and genuine.
I was going to say, this sounds like there was angel song and rainbows and doves flew into Shannon's channel.
Oh my goodness. No, that's not all. Some people just want to argue. And the people that just want to argue, once you try that tactic, you have to disengage. Obviously, because otherwise that's all you'll do for literally the rest of your life.
They are looking for attention. They are looking for you to stop what you're doing and to turn around and look right at them and acknowledge them, and they get a rush. And those people exist, and outrage is their oxygen. And that's the tough part, because they can be pretty awful to other people on the channel as well. Anybody else want to jump in on that? Or?
Sorry, Eric, were you trying to go?
No. All I was going to say was after about a week, you just hang up a sign that says, "Abandon hope, all ye who enter here." And you should be good.
Some people mute them, too.
I genuinely don't mind if somebody attacks me. The things that do actually get under my skin. So I cover a lot of LGBTQ content, and we recently did an episode where all I did was basically go, listen, everyone always talks about there's all of these labels out there. There's all of these labels out there. So myself and another atheist YouTuber called Alexander just went, here's about 30 of them. And we defined them in a row, just saying this is what, when a person says polysexual or peri-oriented or these words that aren't in everyday vernacular, here are just what those words mean. And the comments under that video are some of the cruelest. Because if you go and you talk about LGBT issues, especially trans issues, the people that come out of the woodwork to attack you, and it's not just incels. There's a lot of incels in that, but it is people who even my subscriber count. I decided to pull up the chart and have the like count going from when I posted it, and that is probably the biggest day of lost subscribers I've had. So there are issues that it will surprise you that people will come out and all they want to do in the comments is dehumanize other people.
You get I didn't subscribe to your channel for X. Is that what they're saying?
Or even they will say, so we were defining a lot of trans terms in there too, and they were like, that's a bunch of bullshit. I can't believe, sorry, am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, as much as you want. Knock yourself out.
Okay, that's a bunch of bullshit. And I can't believe you've bought into this, unsubscribe. And that's an interesting phenomenon too, that even on your like personal pages, everybody I think sees on social media where people weaponize clicks of buttons, whether or not they're going to hit the like button or the subscribe button. It's a literal weapon to them and sometimes it's passive aggressive, like, oh, I hate this person and that joke might be funny, but I'm not going to click like because I hate that person. But in this case, a lot of people try to weaponize. I've even gotten the comments that are like, one more episode like this. This happened in this week's episode. One more episode like this and I unsubscribe. And my response was, you should just go now.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the other video.
I enjoy the Shakespearean exits. It's not enough to just go, this isn't really my channel, and go. Instead, they're like, I am offended to my core. I shall find the exit door and I shall leave. And there will be a giant vacuum where I once stood. They do this sort of thing where they announce it and then they're lurking on the channel. Even though they're not subscribing to see if anyone has validated or commented on theirs. It's just bizarre. It's a strange thing to witness.
And if you acquiesce to somebody's attempt to control the generation of your content, then you lose the reason you're doing this to begin with. I'll never.
I wouldn't tangle with you. I wouldn't mess with you.
I wouldn't either.
Just, you are known by reputation. So
that's fair. I do talk to incels in my spare time for fun.
Jimmy, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, Seth, are you going to need to proclaim on this that the views here aren't necessarily the views of Sony?
Because of Eric's camera going out. Well, there's an auto shut-off mechanism that apparently wasn't adjusted by his team. He has a crew where the rest of us are alone, working by ourselves on a monetized dime, but he doesn't need it. He has a team of people who are serving to his every need as he broadcasts. I'm just
press the Diet Coke button there.
Draw my bath. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
No, apparently his camera's got an auto shut off That's
only
kicking
you
in
knew.
every 5 minutes, and so he's having to go over. So the video feed, we
Seth?
occasionally lose him, but it's
Dude, I gave Aaron Ra a ride around town a few months ago, and my front bumper fell off of my car. No,
that's just the devil right there. That's the devil.
I
he's
know,
the devil.
I know.
You know, Aaron.
But he actually cried. He was laughing so hard.
You know what's funny about Aaron is that
popped it back in and it worked. So
he has this sort of, he has this tall, imposing figure that he cuts when he walks in a room. He just looks like the end of the world, and he's like the sweetest guy on the planet.
He's a Viking teddy bear. Absolutely.
God, I got to write that down.
He kissed Eric on air.
I'll get to it.
He did kiss me on air.
Did Aaron kiss you?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, that's awesome.
No wonder you guys are getting so many subscribers. I mean, it's just all kind of
making out with Aaron.
Well, I have amazing people, and I can't wait to get you three on as well. But what I was going to say was I'm actually learning the other end, and I just launched the first episode of a new podcast, and that is real tough. That is real tough. Now I'm learning the other side of it. And I mean, I have so much more respect for all three of you. You've gone through it, and I'm just now starting to see what it's like on the other end, because I started out, oh my gosh. Okay. You want to pull out the world's tiniest violin, right? My first episode, I started out with a producer, a sound, an audio engineer, a person screening calls, and a live studio audience in a studio. Yeah, no, I was incredibly spoiled, so now I'm paying for it. But
as you should.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. I mean, right.
I've got, of course, Shannon Q. I've got Mr. Atheist, and I've got Eric Murphy of Talk Heathen on here for this final segment of the broadcast as we sort of head toward the finish, the exclamation point on the conversation. Is there anything that people really need to know, or you would like them to know, about atheist activism, about your channel specifically, specific conversations that you want them to be a part of? I don't know. Is there something I'm missing? Each of you just kind of tell me what you're thinking these days, and we'll call it a day. Okay. Who wants to start us?
I can go.
God. All right, Jimmy. Let me cut to you real quick. Hang on. And sure. All right, Jimmy. What do you think?
I would say the number one thing I want to communicate out there, not just about my channel, but these other channels, is that if you had come to YouTube in the past looking for a voice that represents yours, or people who can love and appreciate you, whatever your identity is, those channels exist now, and you can find those people, you can find those communities, and it's just gotten a lot better. To anybody who wants to do this, and I've thought about it since the beginning of the show, the actual secret to the success of my channel is that I overpronounce the letter T, and I look for an excuse. And I look for an excuse to say the word button as often as possible. And that's from my British mother. I also do a mean impression of Stewie Griffin, and I imagine those two things are my entire appeal. I think if we were to break it down, I would say those are my appeals.
Eric Murphy, any final thoughts before we call it?
Yeah, there's a big piece that we're missing, and that is everybody else that's in the conversation. I mean, when it comes to the atheist experience, when it comes to Talk Heathen and the other stuff at the ACA that I get to see, there are over 30,000 people that are gathering together every day to be each other's community. People who otherwise wouldn't have that. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that don't have a group to go to, and we're able to provide that for each other. So it's a rising tide. It is floating all boats, and now's the time to get in. Now's the time that if you want to see that logo,
now is the time.
All right. That's all right. I'll splice it. Start me with now is the time, and I'll cut away to the 2-shot here.
Appreciate it. Now is the time to get in on this. Now is the time to reach out and be heard, because people are waiting to listen. There's not enough atheist content out there. So be a voice. It doesn't matter that you heard somebody else say it, because there's a chance that there's somebody who likes your style, likes your intonation, likes the way you tell a story, right? Looks like you, makes you feel accepted. Do it. Get out there, because you don't know if you have those talents, and it's totally worth doing. And even if you don't, what is propping all of us up is that community right? I'm 30,000, but I know that there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who are reaching out and being able to create these relationships, these friendships. And it's a beautiful thing to see, but I see it now more than I've ever seen it before. So heck yeah. I mean, if you don't like what I do, go check out what Jimmy does. Go check out what Shannon does. Go check out, well, Seth, I mean, if you don't know, if you've made it to this channel and you don't know who Seth Andrews is, there's
no, I honestly, talking to all these young next generation whippersnappers, I feel like Gandalf, like, you know, I'm just, you know, kind of walking in with my staff. Oh, look, there's Seth. You know, look, he came in from bingo night. He's about to drink some Ensure, and he's going to interview the youngsters, that kind of thing. So, no,
this has been an incredible experience, in my opinion. The thing I was the most surprised about, Seth, was people on air who, before we came on air, we got to hear Seth's non-radio voice. Sounds exactly like Gilbert Gottfried. So, I don't know. It's
a trade secret. We're splicing that out.
It's Shannon Q. Any final thoughts, my friend? What do you think?
I'd echo what both of my compatriots here said. And I'd also say that if you are an atheist and what has been turning you off potentially from trying to explore more in the community is the misconception that what the atheist community is just a group of people who are looking to make fun of the religious, you are wrong. That's not what it is. What it is now, and you'll discover this as you explore, is a group of people who are looking to create better conversations, help find support systems for those who need it, help establish resources, help create communities, and look for a better way to disseminate valuable and valid information and help you explore your area and breadth of knowledge so that you can come to the decisions that are right for you, armed with the information that you know is accurate and the tools in order to be able to discern. That's what's important to this community now.
Shannon, forgive me.
It's okay. I was going to say, and if what you saw before was something that deterred you from continuing to explore, please reconsider. Because the people that you've seen and heard today should at least be evidence that it's worth a try. You may find something incredibly, incredibly valuable to you or somebody you know. So please do yourself a favor.
There is a conference that is coming up in April that is specifically revolving around YouTube activists. Anybody want to talk about the Faithless Forum and how people can find out more about that?
I would love to. I would absolutely be happy to, because I'm really excited that I'm going to get to be a panelist this year at Faithless Forum. It's going to be April 27th. It is going to be in Dallas, Texas. I don't know the exact venue yet, so forgive me, but it will be announced shortly. Genetically Modified Skeptic and Thomas Westbrook are actually going to be coordinating it along with Telltale Atheist. And this is its second year. Last year was its first year, and it was a massive success. It is the only conference that is completely run and generated by atheist YouTube content creators. And it is all about generating community and creating ideas and celebrating each other and finding resources and learning communication strategies. Last year we had Anthony Magnabosco speak. We always have an amazing lineup of speakers, and I'm really excited about it. I just cannot wait. I cannot wait to meet everybody that is going to come. It's going to be amazing.
What I'm going to do is, once those specifics come in, I will go ahead and put that information on the events page at thethinkingatheist.com. So
Wonderful.
That anybody who knows that if you're checking now and the details aren't quite solidified, they must be really close, just go to thethinkingatheist.com. There's an events tab, and you'll be able to see, and I'll link to any information you might need. Shannon Q, Eric Murphy of Talk Heathen, and Mr. Atheist. Thank you for your channels. Thank you for all of your gifts and your hard work. And mostly, I think for me these days, thank you for your kindness. Thank you for being kind and for treating people like human beings. It is beautiful and it's fantastic, and it's, I think, leading by example. So my hat's off to you. It has been my honor to have you on this show, and all my best.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Absolutely.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter for a complete archive of podcasts and videos, products like mugs and t-shirts featuring the Thinking Atheist logo, links to atheist pages and resources, and details on upcoming free thought events and conventions. Log on to our website, thethinkingatheist.com.